So, on request of one of our subscriber, she wanted to know about pharma raw market in detail. So, pharma raw market is the rest of world countries, you can say, because pharmaceutical market is divided mainly into two groups, that is regulated market and semi regulated market. And main regulated market includes the countries like USA, Europe, Japan, Canada, New Zealand and South Africa. In Europe, countries include UK, Germany, France, Ireland, Sweden, etc. And on the other hand, raw countries, or which is also called as emerging market or semi regulated market, because it is different from regulated market, and it questions are raised by various raw countries. So which are the countries which falls under the raw countries? So this region consists mainly the countries from Asia Pacific, Latin America, Eastern Europe and Gulf countries. And you must know that global share of emerging markets is 24% only from China and Japan. From all countries from Asia Pacific and Gulf have harmonized their regulatory environment, and up to some extent through the organizations like ASEAN, that is Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and also harmonized via GCC, that is Gulf Cooperation Council. So why do we want to harmonize the raw market? Because there is a diversity of requirements in emerging markets. Therefore, regulatory requirements are harmonized in regulated countries by CTD, that is Common Technical Document filing. So, harmonization is important in reducing the cost involved in availability of drugs, also for maintaining quality requirements of premise, and because of the regional registration requirements. There are different requirements in different countries for registration, and it is difficult for any company to develop product for each region. Therefore, one needs to consider majority of requirements during technical data submission, which will help in export registration. So, what is the difference between regulated and emerging market? So, there are differences in degrees of implementation of regulations, intensity of conducting audits and inspections, and in case because GMP is violated, or wherever GMP is violated, penalties are also different. Regulated market guidelines are very clear, and regulated market adhere 100% to the guidelines, whereas no such adherence is observed in the emerging markets as the regulations are not harmonized. And differences in their region, differences in certain aspects such as regulation of pharmaceuticals, use of different guidelines for registration fees, requirements to maintain registration, duration of registration, patent regulation, and legislation of the drug. So, key requirements include administrative documents, chemistry, manufacturing and control specifications, stability data, packaging and labeling. In administrative documents includes 6 documents, that is certificate of pharmaceutical product, product permission, manufacturing license, WHO GMP certificate, free scale certificate, or which is also called as export certificate, artwork carton or label and packet sliplets. Next is chemistry, manufacture and control documents, and which includes nomenclature, general properties, name of the manufacturer and site of manufacturer, route of synthesis, flow diagram in brief, structural elucidation, impurities, specifications and method of analysis, container closure system, stability testing and retest period and storage. And for your reference, I have provided these images, so you can follow these for details, because each countries has their different requirements. And these images provide a comparative study of pharmaceutical registration requirements across various regions like Asian, GCC, Latin, CIS, Asia Pacific, which accept Asian countries and African countries. The table covers several aspects such as dossier format, site of registration, stability data, labeling requirements, and clinical study design. So, site of region registration is required for all the regions. Dossier format in Asian countries includes ACTD. In GCC requires CTD or ECTD. LATAM, CIS, Asia Pacific, and African countries requires country specific, which often resembles CTD or follow specific requirements. If we talk about COPP, that is Certificate of Pharmaceutical Product, is required and legalized in all regions. About manufacturing license, it is also required across all regions. About the registration time, Asian countries takes 12 months, GCC takes 24 to 36 months. LATAM varies in different countries like Peru 7 days, Brazil 24 months, Chile 6 to 18 months. In CIS 6 to 24 months, Asia Pacific region 8 to 24 months, African countries 15 to 18 months. If we talk about stability data, each region has different stability zones such as zone 4A, 4B, zone 2 and others depending on climate requirements. In the second image you can see number of submission batches because in Asian, GCC and LATAM requires 3 pilot scale batches. And about the minimum, and in CIS, Asia Pacific and African countries 3 primary batches with some regions requiring at least 2 pilot scale batches. About the minimum stability data, all regions generally require long-term stability studies, that is 12 months, and accelerated stability studies, that is 6 months of data. About the stability guidelines reference, Asian guidelines, Asian follows Asian guidelines, GCC follows GCC guidelines, LATAM follows ANVISA and ICH guidelines, CIS follows ICH guidelines, Asia follows ICH or WHO guidelines, and African also follows WHO and OMS guidelines. About the labeling requirements, Asian follow GMP with descriptions in English and local language, whereas GCC requires detailed product description. LATAM countries require labeling per local regulations with specific registration details. CIS require Braille in CIS countries it requires Braille on labels with drug information. And Asia Pacific packaging per ICH or WHO with details on the carton or insert. Not or insert and insert, right? Means both. In African countries, English and local language labeling as approved by the NDA. If we talk about number of subjects for clinical trials, generally 12 subjects across regions are required. About the clinical study design, ASEAN and GCC require single dose, 2 period and 2 sequence crossover study. LATAM countries require 2 period, 2 sequence crossover or 2-way crossover studies. CIS require Russian patients in phase 3 or local trials. Bioequivalence studies required. Asia Pacific region requires variation, means by country to country, and can require local or global trials. African countries require single dose, 2 period and 2 sequence crossover study. So overall, these tables give a comprehensive overview of the regulatory standards and differences across regions. helping pharmaceutical companies understand and prepare for the registration requirements in each area.